I want you to take a moment and think about the people you see every day who are going about and doing their jobs. So my day starts quite early because I work around an hour away from home. And one of the very first people I see when I leave the house is my neighbour, a postwoman, setting off for work. I get to the end of my street, I usually see a taxi picking someone up to take someone else to work. I normally stop at a petrol station and I see the people who work in a garage. I'll keep going, I'll pass a solicitor's firm and an accountant's firm. Then when I get to work, I'll speak to my colleagues whose jobs it is to manufacture things, to buy stuff, to enter data onto a spreadsheet. And then when I get home from work at the end of the day, I normally open my front door. I've got one of those cards on the doorstep. We tried to deliver something to you today, but you weren't home, so we left it with a neighbour. It's normally the one neighbour you wish they hadn't left it with, but that's a whole different story altogether. I'll have a chat to my wife and son about their day. So my wife works in an office and my son, who's 4, and if I can get anything out of him at all, he might tell me what he's done in school, which could be, for example, that he's learning how to write. Work forms a fundamental part of our society. We set our lives up around the jobs that we do. And for most people, that will involve going to one single location to do that work. It might mean working full-time or part-time. And it might mean working in a single block of a shift. But what if I was to tell you that everything we know about work could be about to change? So my name's Mark Hendy, and I work in HR, or human resources, if you're unfamiliar with the term. And that means I work with the people within businesses. And I love my job because I love people. Human beings blow my mind. Our capacity to do phenomenal things continues to inspire me every day. We've evolved throughout our history, through our capability, our creativity, and our intelligence. So far, we've had 3 industrial revolutions, and we're now heading into a new revolution, the 4th industrial revolution. That's also called the second machine age. And this is as a result of a considerable number of advancements in a range of different technologies, including things like artificial intelligence, robotics, the Internet of Things, blockchain. All of those things are advancing at a high level, and that's what's creating this 4th industrial revolution. Now, all of those things will undoubtedly affect work, because as technology evolves and as society evolves, work will evolve. It always has. And at this point, you're probably thinking, what's this guy talking about? How is work going to significantly affect the job that I do? I drive a taxi, I work in a call centre, I sell insurance. So I thought it might be helpful if I give you a brief overview of what some of those technologies are, so you can put this into context. The first one I'm going to talk about is automation. Now, this is nothing new. Automation is the use or introduction of automatic equipment. It's been around for decades. But at this point in time, we're seeing automation techniques, and the software as well as the hardware is becoming so sophisticated and so advanced that automation is now able to do a lot more things than it's ever done before. Robotics. Everyone knows what a robot is. We've all seen WALL-E and Star Wars and all that type of stuff. Well, robots are effectively a programmable machine that can perform lots of different tasks. So as you can see here, robots can sweep floors, they can lay bricks, they can flip burgers. Robots can even dance now, which means they can already do one thing better than I can do already. I mean lay bricks. I'm an awesome dancer. 3D printing. Essentially the use of a specialist printer to make 3-dimensional objects. This is being used all over the world in healthcare, in dentistry, in IT. It's even being used to create hearing aids. And at this point in time, I want to talk about this chap. This is Stephen Davis. Stephen was unhappy with the prosthetic hand given to him by the NHS, so he decided to use a 3D printer to create his own in his garden shed. Stephen went on to develop his business, and now he makes colourful prosthetic limbs for children all over the world. Stephen's not a global manufacturer who owns a global PLC with a vast manufacturing unit. He makes these colourful prosthetic limbs for children out of his garden, and he does that round the corner in Clydach. As I said, human beings blow my mind. Autonomous vehicles. We're seeing loads of advancements in autonomous vehicles. This is basically a car, a bus, a truck that can drive itself. Audi, Tesla, and Nissan, they're all investing huge sums of money in this technology. And if it's refined and it takes to the streets, it could see the end of driving jobs, which employs millions of people all over the world. But self-driving cars, They're not too far into the future than you might think. And finally, artificial intelligence, or AI. Artificial intelligence is effectively computer systems that can perform tasks that normally require human intelligence. AI is everywhere these days, and you probably don't even realize it. Alexa, Siri, Google Home, your Amazon Fire Stick, your personal recommendations on Netflix, Spotify, and Amazon Prime, they're all driven by artificial intelligence. And all of these technologies have evolved, and they've developed, and they've enhanced. But guess what? They're not done evolving yet. They're getting even more clever. Aside from technology changing the workplace, society is changing the workplace too. A job for life. I remember hearing that term when I started my employment in Tata Steel 17 years ago, I think it was. How realistic is that as a proposition for the future? Retirement ages are closer to 70 now than 60, and we've effectively seen the end of defined benefit pension schemes. We're now seeing 4 generations in the workplace for the first time in a long time. And people want some variety in their careers. You know, and even if you didn't want variety in your careers, what's the chances that an employer can offer you 50 years of working? I'm not sure they can. Because modern living has also influenced society to want modern working too. Employees are recognizing that technology has meant that it's easier for people to work from home. Obviously, not a lot of people can do that, but not everyone can do that, but a lot of people can do that. And how else will society change in the future? Because we as employees want it to change, or because our employers want it to change for us? Who knows? But we do know one thing, and that's that the world is changing. Tech and society will undoubtedly lead to both positive and not so positive effects on society and work from an employee's point of view. What we do and how we do it could change substantially. It could also change subtly, and it might not even change at all, depending on what you do. Just to put some of this into context, I'm going to talk through how tech and society could change and is changing in some smaller businesses. Imagine your everyday car garage, your small business owner who runs his garage. If robots become affordable, and bearing in mind that a robot can do programmable tasks based on information that's been stored into it, what does that mean for that small business owner? It could fund a better lifestyle. It could create opportunities. It could improve that person's health, and it could prolong his working career. It could make his work easier, and it could make his business more lucrative. And the second example of where tech and society is changing is through the use of virtual reality in surgery. I find this fascinating. I came across this on a TV program. I'm not sure if I'm supposed to say it, so you'll have to beep this out, but it was The Good Doctor on TV's brilliant program. But effectively, when you go into a hospital, specialist hospitals, I guess, that have this technology, they'll do a body scan, and they will use all of your information and all your statistics along with whatever medical ailments you have, and it'll feed that into a computer. That computer will create a simulated version of us or of the patient. And doctors and surgeons are able to use virtual reality to practice surgery on patients. They're able to see what challenges that they might come up against in the real surgery. They may be able to predict the chances of success. This is saving people's lives. It's real progress. And also, with technology, we'll see some new jobs created, because we'll need new jobs to support, to service, to maintain, to install this equipment. They say that the jobs of the future that our children will have, including my 4-year-old in nursery, those jobs haven't even been created yet. But there is a big question. It's a question that concerns me greatly. Will the number of new jobs created balance off against the number of jobs that are going to be lost due to technology? No one really knows the answer to that question. If the technology to make vehicles drives themselves and takes to the streets, that could be millions of jobs all over the world. If drones deliver parcels, as we've seen on the news and in the media, where does that leave my neighbour, the postwoman, or the person who leaves the card on my doorstep when I get home from work? If a manufacturing business uses robots and 3D printing to create stuff, where does that leave the operators whose jobs it is to create that stuff now? The Law Society recently explained that AI will have significant implications on the legal profession, and Deloitte are talking about how blockchain technology is disrupting the financial sector. I'm not trying to frighten you or scare you by talking about this stuff, but it's inevitable that with this new revolution, there will be job losses. That's always happened, right? We really cannot let Naive optimism blindly lead us into this exciting future without thinking of the likely consequences for so many people. But then, aside from technology, society and the changes that we want, that'll have an impact on the workplace and on people too. If more people work flexibly, we'll remove commuting time and we could have more personal time. People could potentially spread out their working day more than they do now. Instead of the traditional 9 to 5 and shift working, people might be able to work a few hours here and there. We may eventually get to a place where for most people, they can work around their personal lives and not have a personal life around their work lives. Would family lives be improved by people having more time to spend together? If I still need to go to a physical location to do my work, an hour away from home, but now I get there in a self-driving vehicle, that's 2 hours a day I get back to do whatever I want in the confines of my self-driving car. I could do some work, I could watch a film, I could read a book, I could even watch TED Talks online. But of course, as with technology, there would be consequences to all of this too. If more people work remotely, will workplaces become vast empty units? Will that kill off the footfall of those local businesses that rely on the people? And what about the social element of what we get from work? A lot of people go to work and they make friends, and those friends help them not just through the work challenges that they have, but they help them with their personal lives too. And I'm not sure if I'm upset at work, I want to be consoled by my new colleague, Ted, Mark III, the mail sorting robot. When planning this talk, I crowdsourced some information from social media. I asked people on Twitter what work means to them, because I wanted to understand how a changing world of work could impact upon people. And you can go on Twitter and you can look this up yourself. The hashtag was what work means to me. And I had a phenomenal response. And I'm just going to read through some of those responses now. What work means to me. For me, it means the freedom to express myself and my ideas, a sense of purpose by making the world a little bit better. It means other people, collaborating, relationships, adventure. It means providing for my family and being a good dad. It means meaningful exchanges of information. It means changing lives of people affected by cancer. It means showing my kids a work ethic and keeping a roof above our heads. Belonging to a team or a community. A place where I can be myself. At the moment, what work means to me, a big fat pain in the... What work means to me, learning stuff to share from others and sharing the stuff I learned with others to make things better. A purpose outside of being a single parent, giving me social interaction, for without, I would be a bit lonelier. It was abundantly clear that work means a lot of different things to a lot of different people. But interaction, collaboration, and purpose was a common theme. People need different things from work, and changes to technology and changes to society could enable and prevent people getting what they need from work. This is undoubtedly both an opportunity and a threat. Before I finish, I want to return to the beginning of my talk. Before I frightened you all with talk about Netflix, robots, and how we're all going to be out of a job soon, I asked you to think about the people you see every day who are doing their jobs. Based on what you know now, how much of that could change? How many of their jobs will change? How many could work from home instead? How many will need to retrain and become a robot repairer or a self-driving vehicle mechanic? Will a more technology-enabled flexible working life make our lives easier to manage? Will our families be brought closer together? Will some more people become isolated, more lonely, and how will this affect their mental health? I've talked about how work could be different and how it could impact us. I've talked about how tech is changing and how society is changing. I've talked about how what work means for us personally is a factor that we each need to think about. But before I go and think about what I'm going to do with all of this spare time on my hands when a robot comes along and takes my job, I want you guys to think about this next question for yourselves. What do I want my place to be in the future world of work. History has taught us that with progress comes both pleasure and pain, opportunity and challenge, regret and discovery. If our next industrial revolution is anything like our last, we would be foolish not to learn from the lessons from the past. Thinking ahead, picturing our place in the world, and planning right now for how we are going to get there sounds like a wise move. What do I want my place to be in the future world of work? If you can answer that question, you can be prepared. You can maybe learn new skills, change your career, advise your friends, and prepare your children. But if you can't answer that question, join the club. Thank you very much.